life comes at you fast,
It
girlfriend. And,
does.
sometimes you don't even have a plan. You just got a prayer and some holy water and in the group
Yes,
chat to
that
try
part.
and figure this thing out. Hey, I'm Dejanique.
And I'm Elena, and this is Everything Eventually. So today we are here to talk about the unplanned pivot. We're so excited to have you guys along for this conversation. Dejanique and I have definitely had some very interesting career moves, and we're excited to talk to you guys about it today. 2024 for me was insane. I had a job, was laid off in January, got another job that started in March, was laid off in October, and ended up consulting come Thanksgiving, literally signed a consulting contract the day before Thanksgiving.
I was telling Elena, I don't know how to jump into this because I feel like my story is so specific to me. And she's like, girl, what are you talking about? I know two people who literally have gone through what you're going through. So, this is
Yes.
just a space for us to be able to flesh this thing out and to find some common ground and just to let people know, hey, if you have an unplanned pivot, you are not the only one.
That's right. I mean, I think when we look at our careers, I'll say I've been in mine for 12-ish years. Um, it is hard to look back and say, oh, yeah, I put this together like a puzzle and I
Mm-hmm.
knew where every piece was going to go. And the picture is just as I, imagined. Like, I don't think that most people can look at their careers and feel that way. And I don't think that that's like normal. And I think that that's okay.
So, Elena, let's talk a little bit more about pre-layoff,
Yep.
during layoff, and post-layoff. So,
Mm-hmm.
pre-layoff, what were you doing? Let's give the people a little more
Yeah.
detail about
So
your journey.
pre-layoff, I was the director of digital and leading a e-commerce business for the largest sock manufacturer in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was leading 3 e-commerce websites. I had a team of 10, marketing, retention, like all the things. And so like it was a really great opportunity. I had lots of different responsibilities. Like it was on paper perfect. Like you finally get to a point in your career where like I don't necessarily have to execute all the things because I've had the hands-on experience and now I'm leading strategy and negotiating deals with influencers and all like the fun stuff, the air quote fun
Yeah.
stuff. And I was like, this is it. Like I had also a boss who is still an amazing mentor and who I love, who looked like us. She
Yeah.
understood. She had been at this point in her career before. She was a mom with 2 kids one was in college and one is in high school, like doing competitive softball. So like she's also traveling the country with her daughter. And as she is, going off and doing softball and tournaments and stuff. So like she had a life that I was like, yes, like I have somebody who gets it. I have a job where like it allows me to be mom and
Mm-hmm.
also like grow in my career. So I thought it was like I literally was like, this is great. Um and then like the economy not being really where it needs to be and all of these economic factors really played a role in the decisions that the company had to make about how they were spending their money. And unfortunately, marketing is like always one of the first things to go.
Always.
So always, because why do you need to market to people to buy your stuff? I don't know. So it's like, so, my layoff started small. I felt it coming. So it wasn't like I was completely blindsided, but still, I'm like, how do you fill this void of this paycheck in such a short amount of time? So like, I was starting to look and put feelers out before January of 24 came when I officially was told it was happening. Um, and I was like, okay, God, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
I got another job so at that point I went from in-house to agency, and I've worked on the agency side before. And then crazy enough, the holding company that owned the agency come October was like, actually, we're going to sell this particular like agency. And so we were sold to a different company and my role was deemed redundant. So that's how we end up with layoff number 2 in 1 year. But I will say that, like, when God closes a door, he opens another one. And I randomly found a post on LinkedIn for the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center to do consulting for CPG and retail brands, helping to build a community of practice for women entrepreneurs who look like us.
Yeah.
Minority women who are building product-based businesses. And I was like, yes, I can do that. I literally was like, God, I have never built a community of practice, but I was like, I do know how to build a business. I know how to build a brand. And while I was in school getting my MBA, I always was like, I want to help women. Like, there is so much knowledge that I'm getting, like, and there's so many of us who don't have access to this. I want to be able to share this. And I was like, okay, this is the opportunity to do that.
So it sounds like your layoffs didn't last too long because one, you had anticipated the first one, and the second one was almost divine intervention where when that opportunity ended, God already saw fit for where he was going to place you next, right?
Yes. And I realize, like, a lot of people don't have that benefit these days.
For me and my story, ooh, child. Should have poured a glass of wine before getting into this. Okay, so you're in marketing and I'm in media, and I'd been in media for a decade. And I'm like, I was the 5-year-old reading the back of a cereal box and advocating for my friends. I always knew I wanted to be a journalist. And so getting my first job was literally like, a dream.
Right.
And so whereas you said you didn't have the puzzle pieces to put your picture together and most people don't have it, I felt like I did. I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is what I have to do to get there. And I was climbing that ladder and every step was making sense. And I was like collecting all of this knowledge and all of these contacts and feeling really good at the space that I was in my career. And then 2020 happened, and we had the pandemic and we had the social unrest and we'd, been dealing with a Trump presidency, and all of these things affected what media looked and felt like in the fabric of the institution so deeply. Correct. And I remember saying to myself, like, this is not what I remember signing up for. This is not what I aspired to be a part of. There were days where I was like, why can't I advocate and say Black Lives Matter? That is not political. That is me speaking up for my community. But our identities had become politicized so much that I couldn't even advocate for the community that I was a part of, which is why most journalists will tell you they are journalists in the first place. So that's when the red flags started really showing up for me, that maybe this isn't the space that I'm going to find myself retiring in. And it was frightening because I'm like, I don't have a plan B. I do not have a plan B. I was working my plan A and my plan A was working, It was working. So I thought, maybe I'll take a break. I'll get some air. I'll come back renewed and rested and ready to do the thing. Right. And while I took the break, I met the man, and he gave me a ring and he gave me a baby. And period. The break lasted longer than I anticipated because my priorities shifted and I started to feel like, no, I'm not going to stay in a newsroom for 24 hours when a hurricane is threatening my community. I want to be with my husband and my son. Or no, I don't want to go to work at 2 p.m. and get home at 11 p.m. because then when do I spend time with my family? True. So I started trying to look for these non-traditional ways to still tell stories. And I just kept hitting these brick walls. And I was like, well, Lord, are you telling me that this chapter has closed and it's time to do something different? So I stayed home with my child for a year and started applying to more traditional positions. And now I'm in communications for higher education, and I'm still trying to figure out, is this where you want me to be? is
Right?
is this what my chapter 2 looks like, or is this, a, a,
A
a
pit stop?
a pit stop maybe? There's still a question mark lingering for me. So while we talk about these unplanned pivots, when you pivot, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to land in the spot that makes you comfortable or the spot that's going to be permanent for you. It just may be a spot,
It
a
may be a
season.
spot.
And I'm trying to figure that out right now because at my core, I still feel there's like this something that I
Yep.
need to be doing and saying or experiencing. And I don't necessarily know if I've had the aha moment yet, right? And so I've had to make peace with knowing that every single moment of your life is not going to feel euphoric, right? Every single moment of
Correct.
your life is not going to be what you put on the highlight reel. It may be the season that God is using to stretch a muscle, to develop patience, for you to be a good steward of what he's given you so that he can then trust you with more. And I think
Ooh,
that that
say
is the
that.
space that I find myself in right now, which is why this unplanned pivot is something else.
And the crazy thing is like, I feel like in unplanned pivots, to your point, like you have to figure out how to be comfortable in the uncomfortable to
Yeah.
find the little things that really make you happy.
Yes.
And it's like the most mundane, task at work, at a job that you're like, I don't even really know I'm here, but like there are things that you can find that you're like, oh, but I kind of do like this. Or if I'm
Mm-hmm.
here, I might as well learn a new skill. Or like I feel like a lot of times the pivots and the hold up in life also provides opportunities to like reconnect with yourself mentally. Like, all right,
Yeah.
I'm not as busy as I used to be. Maybe I'll like get back into like a hobby. I will say that I've kind of done that in my pivots where I was like, oh, like I used to sew a lot as a child. And so I literally went and got a sewing machine and like I was like sewing, like fixing dresses instead of taking them to the dry cleaner and having like the lady at the dry cleaner, love her, fix things. I was like, oh, I can like hem that. I'll do this. I'll do that. Like I just started doing things that used to make me really happy because I was like, I have a little less mental load. And
Yeah.
it's stuff like that where I'm like, even if it's not like pushing yourself in your career or it's not perfect, I do feel like it provides opportunities to like reconnect with yourself, which sometimes maybe that's like the reason why it fell apart.
Maybe that was the whole point.
Maybe
But
that was the
I
point.
must take a point of privilege here and say on episode 1, Elena told y'all she has some kind of big old saw thing that she like is building with. And now she's telling y'all she sews. Like this girl has all of the hobbies. Like you
I
are the
try to
poster
keep
child
myself
for how
busy.
to properly hobby. Okay?
I am not a I'm not really good at sitting still.
Yeah.
So, yes, I love having something to do. Something that um also I like having something to show at the end. And I
Mm-hmm.
think for me, whether it's the woodworking projects and like or the sewing, I can literally look at the end and I'm like, I did that. And
That's
that for
mine.
me is like
Mm-hmm.
gratification, even if it takes me
Okay.
forever,
Maybe
which
that's a whole nother episode for us to explore, Elena.
yes, I think so,
I
for
think it
sure.
might be. But I want to piggyback off of that because you talked about how you thrive in your hobbies during this
Yep.
time of stillness. For me, I felt guilty for having so
Ooh.
much free time. I felt like I was not being productive. I felt like I was not contributing. I
Financially?
felt like all in all the ways, right? So and what's so interesting is my husband ain't asking me for nothing, but I still felt like, well, sometimes I want to grab the Chick-fil-A or
Right?
sometimes I want to take us out. But more so just contributing like to society, like, because so much was going on, and I'm like, I
Yeah.
should be doing something. I should be saying something. I should have a role in this thing, or I should be better utilizing my time. And I think that it took me entirely too long to realize you are in this season to rest. You
Yeah.
need to rest. You've been going and going for over 10 years. You've never had a moment where you didn't have to work, where you didn't have to be on someone else's time, where you weren't
Right.
chasing after a story, knocking on a random stranger's door, figuring out how to make ends meet. All of these societal pressures that we have normalized, right?
Yes.
And I received this break, but it was unplanned, and it wasn't by my doing. It was because I just needed to breathe
Yes.
and didn't breathe because I felt guilty that I had so much time to breathe. And so I think being able to lean in to the pivot and the space that gives you a little more runway
Yep.
is also important for us to talk about, because I think especially as Black women, we are not conditioned to sit and rest. Everybody's talking about a soft life, but I think they're still looking at it from a capitalistic standpoint, right? A soft life, and it's a girl going to get her nails done, or a soft life and she has a matcha and she's in Pilates classes. But soft life can literally mean taking time for yourself that has nothing to do with the aesthetic of the world, but
Yes.
recentering and finding your balance and doing nothing.
Absolutely
You
nothing.
know?
It could be journaling. You could
Yeah.
just go on a walk. You could go
Yes.
on your back porch and look at the birds.
Yeah.
Like, just sit there. I feel like I do agree that there is a level of guilt. And because I am naturally a doer type person, I rarely sit down. And my husband, Duran, always is like, all right, if we're going to sit and watch a movie, can you not like have something in your hands, like be doing something at the same time? Because he is a really chill, will take the time
Yeah.
and is not doing anything. And for years, I was like, what is wrong with you? Like, you have done nothing today. Like, on a Saturday, I'd be like, you have done nothing. And he was like, I did do something. I sat here. And I was so confused. I was like, I don't get it.
What did it take for you to finally have that aha moment that he's not, quote unquote, doing nothing?
I will say that like post kids, I now see the purpose and crave quiet.
Yes.
I seek. We'll schedule I'm going to sit here. I'm going to put on my calendar that I'm busy, and I'm going to sit here and maybe just do nothing. Maybe I'll literally like go check the mail, walk around the yard just because, like, nothing. And it is so like you can clear your mind.
Yeah.
And I feel like I understand now the like needing to do nothing so that like you can clear your brain and then go back to whatever. Or, you take a day to do nothing and then the next day you're like, okay, I feel prepared to go do the things. It has taken me years to understand why that's important. And then I think in between the jobs and the projects that I've been doing, like I feel like I have found a love for doing nothing in moderation. I'm not like as big a doing nothing as Duran is, but like I'm like, no, I need this 30 minutes to do nothing.
Yeah. Totally
But
understandable.
I will say though that like our 20s, and correct me if I'm wrong if your 20s were different. My 20s were like go, 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 hustle, hustle, hustle. You were at every networking thing.
Yes.
You were doing this. You were at work early. You stayed at work late. You somehow had a social life on top of all of the things. And I lived in New York in my 20s, and that was literally like, I mean, it's the concrete jungle. It is, if you can make it in New York, I feel like you can make it anywhere. And it truly was one of the craziest 9 years of my life. And I will say that that is something to me where I'm like, I don't want that now at almost 40.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I can't live my life like that anymore. How do you feel about that?
Girl, I tell these people on the new job, it is an 8 to 5. I am on two wheels at 4:29.
Yes.
And I don't feel guilty about those types of things anymore.
Mm-mm.
Like, I don't feel like I have to be the first one in and the last one out, specifically because I don't feel like I have anything else to prove.
Period.
I am past that point in both life and my career where I feel like my worth comes from insert any corporate, stigma that is placed upon a worker and specifically Black women in these spaces. No, I'm
True.
credentialed, I'm qualified, and I have the portfolio to prove it. There was a time where you couldn't pry me away from the newsroom
Lord,
because
right?
I just had to finish the thing, and the thing had to be perfect, and I had to be the one to do it. But now
Otherwise,
I
it wasn't
realize,
perfect.
baby girl, you drop dead tomorrow, the position will be posted the next day.
They will
And
say
so
Unique was amazing. And
she was
we
so
haven't
great.
rolled.
Do you think you could fill this role? Here were her duties.
Right.
Absolutely. But who's going to fill your absence? Your family, the people who depend on you, who care about you, who your voice truly matters to. And
Yep.
so I've got to be a lot more intentional these days about cultivating my energy and what it is that I can pour into those spaces. And that's
Yeah.
where I'm at. And unapologetically.
Unapologetically. Everybody that knows me knows that Creed and Carter are the best things that ever happened to me. And I will get literally, and I did last week. I got up in the middle of a meeting and I was like, I'm sorry, I have to go. Creed fell on the playground and he is covered in mud. And I have to go to school and take him a change of clothes
He needs some
and
clothes.
some new shoes to wear because he's literally supposedly covered in mud. And I was like, I will talk to you guys later. And I literally logged off. That's
So,
where I'm at.
but so let me ask you this. Because we've spent so much of our lives defining success based upon where we landed in our careers and how much money we had in our bank accounts and what titles were on our resumes, what did it take for you to redefine what success looks like for you?
I will say that number one, and I think it was kind of a few year process. So Duran and I moved from New York to North Carolina when Creed was almost one. And so that in and of itself changed what my career could look like because I was no longer in New York where I was working at Mattel. And so I was doing marketing for this global toy brand and working on all of these theatrical launches for Thomas and Friends and Fisher Price. So my job literally just looked different because there wasn't that in North Carolina. Then there was the fact that once I was here, we then had a second baby. And for years, people told me, you don't need a master's degree. They're not important. Don't waste your time and money. But I literally was like, I am in a place in life where I'm like, I have a lot of great experience, but it doesn't really translate to where I live. And I think I'm literally missing something. And so I do need to go back to school, not because I don't feel like I'm capable, but if I want to be able to succeed and do more, then I think I need these 3 letters to help also ground me in this new reality that I live in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And so I decided I was going to go back to school with 2 kids under 2. Don't know why I did that, but it ended up being the best decision ever. It did. But, between the move, going back to school, and then while I'm in school, they're teaching you to rethink business. They're teaching you to redefine how you look at problem solving. And I was like, wait a minute. If I can do this for people's businesses, then I can redefine what my life looks like as well. I can rejigger what I want to do, how I want to do it, how I show up. we have leadership classes and they're like, well, what type of leader are you? And like, how are you making sure you're building like processes like to set your teams up for success? And you're like, wait a minute, like they're asking you like really deep questions that on the surface feel work related, but in actuality, they are like how you process information and how you show up in whatever role that you're in. So I feel
Yeah.
like I learned a lot in my MBA that made me think differently about what I wanted in life.
Hmm.
And um and also like it showed me that there's so many possibilities in what I could do from a air quote marketing perspective, how I could help people. But I think that like, success is whatever you want it to be.
Yes.
Um I guess I'll ask you like, what is one thing that you wish somebody would have told you, piece of advice about
Ooh.
pivoting or
Hmm.
finding purpose and like what success looks like? Has anybody ever told you something amazing, or you're like, nobody's ever told me anything meaningful and I wish they would have told me this?
I think somebody said something that literally was the turning point for me.
Okay.
Um, this is when I'd had Roman, I wasn't working, and I still thought maybe I can give news a chance. And so I was working with an agent and I interviewed for a main anchor position in my hometown in New Orleans. Killed the interview, got a really nice six-figure offer. And the agent calls me and says, the news director, one, says that you have to shut down your business, Joe's Lifestyle, because your name and likeness will belong to the company.
Oh Lord.
And two, she wants to know if you want to be a journalist or an influencer because she notices you're really active on social media. And I said to myself, are you going to sit here and let this woman put you in a box and define who you are or make you arbitrarily define yourself because she doesn't understand that you are dynamic? And the answer is hell no.
Yeah, that's
And
a
that,
hard no.
oh, no, that
Like,
is
who do
literally
you think I am?
when,
No.
well, that's
Like,
the
what?
point. She didn't know who I was.
And that's the problem.
And that was going to be that on that because absolutely not. You know, that is when I realized you can't let someone else define you. You can't
Correct.
let someone else define what success looks like for you.
That
And
part.
you have to draw a line in the sand about where you are going to plant your flag and say, this is what I stand for. This is what I believe in. And I'm not budging from this spot.
Correct.
And so in media, you're getting the job of your dreams when you get the call from your hometown, a main anchor position. But it was in that moment that I knew. I was like, oh girl, you really must be something. You have really matured and reached a point in life where you are not playing. To
Right.
say thanks but no thanks because absolutely not. And so was she giving me advice? No. Was
No,
she
that's not.
was she big up in me? No. She was really like shading me on the low,
For
saying you're great
having
at what you do,
options.
reel it in kind of deal. And I think that was that. I don't think, I know it was such a pivotal moment for me because I realized, as I was saying, this industry has changed. They don't understand what is happening. They don't understand that we are people. I don't belong to you.
That part.
Um, that is why I resonate with viewers because I'm authentic and I'm not going to water it down. I'm damn sure not going to code switch. And I'm
No.
not going to show up into a space that doesn't represent the very community I vow to advocate for. So
Yeah.
it was a blessing in disguise, as you said earlier, that one question, does she want to be a journalist or an influencer,
Like, that's
showed me
wild.
that I'm both. I'm unintentionally an influencer. If you think I wasn't getting paid to
Right.
do nothing, right? I was just showing up online, my authentic self. But it showed me that you just really have to take control of your own narrative.
Yes.
You decide what success is for yourself, and you don't give anyone else that power.
I think that's absolutely beautiful. And um, I think that's also generational.
Mm-hmm.
I, my dad's a pastor. My mom was the provost at the university that I went to. And my mom
What?
worked
I did
at
not
the
know
university.
that.
Yes, she was. And she retired 4 years ago. And she worked at the university for 35 years.
Mm.
My dad was in the military, worked for a railroad company as a railroad engineer, and was a pastor. And he's been a pastor for 30 years. So, like, I think about generationally how different the philosophy that we have about work and purpose and
Yeah.
how people stayed. My parents have been doing the same things for 30 years. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and it's wild. And to your point, like, this lady asked you to pick. And it's like, like, our generation says we don't have to pick, but my parents were deathly afraid for me, for sure, through my career of like, I was doing this and I worked at Alice and Olivia and I worked at Macy's and I was doing some consulting stuff. And they were like, what are you doing, child? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I'm out here trying to figure out my life. I'm out here trying to make more money. I'm out here trying to like do all the things. And they're like, can we have some consistency, please? And I'm like, I don't know what that is, but all I do know is that I live in New York and I need to make more money to afford to live here. So, like, I think there is a generational piece to like if you work here, we own you. This is your life. This is the hill you are deciding to die on. And our generation is like, wait, I can work for you and have other things going on.
Yes.
That in my image and likeness is my own. You can't control what I do or say. I don't think it is ever okay to look at your life or the job that you're currently in and be like, this is the only way. I feel like there is always a secondary path to create to if God hasn't put the pivot in the path and you're uncomfortable and unfulfilled and can't find purpose, I feel like you need to create the pivot yourself.
Yep.
Find the secondary path. Find the one little thing that you like to do outside of your job and carve out the hour or whatever you can carve out to dedicate to that thing. And like, who knows, like it might be the thing that you need in order to launch something completely different on your own. But like, I just hate thinking that like people could spend their lives doing one single thing and then it's like you retire and you're like, okay, well now what do I do?
I think to sum this episode up, I'm going to go back to what the old folks used to say, and that is just keep living. Because as you live and you gain life experience and you meet people and you're exposed to new things, it opens up your perspective. And never say what you won't do and what position you won't be in and what could never be you, because life has a funny way of coming around and humbling you and giving you some empathy that you may not have had otherwise. And so just keep living. I never thought I would have stayed home for a year with nobody's child, but it was the best year, most trying, but the best year of my life, and I couldn't have imagined not being with him.
Right.
And I'm sure within your pivot and within your downtime, you learn new things about yourself, as you talked about. And so, no, we're not meant to walk this earth and do one thing and have one perspective. And so just being open to it and being a little flexible, I think is what puts us in a position to pivot gracefully.
I agree. Couldn't have said it better.
All right, guys, this was lovely. Elena, we could have gone for 30 more minutes.
Time. Yes, I feel like there's so much to talk about, but I have enjoyed talking about the unplanned pivots.
The unplanned pivot. And until next time. We'll talk to you all
Everything
later.
eventually. Bye, guys.
Bye.